Basically, every time I present to a group of student athletes, the Q&A session at the end turns into a conversation about investing. And I love that. I'm glad that young people are excited about investing, and I want you to be excited about investing. I want you to start investing while you're young. I don't want you to wait until you're 40, but I do want us to be cautious. I don't want you to feel like you're missing out on something, or, you want to start investing right away. And so maybe you don't fully understand what you're investing in or the risks associated with that. My goal in today's episode is that you would walk away with a basic understanding of what investing actually is, why it's important, some ways that you could invest, and most importantly, I want you to leave knowing how to decide if you should be investing right now. I think your biggest investment opportunity right now, and this might sound corny, but your biggest investment opportunity right now is investing in yourself as an athlete, as a student, getting your degree, developing skills that will be employable in the future. For some of you, that might be professional sports. For all of us, whether you go pro or not, at some point in your life, you will likely be employed. And so the skills that you're learning in college, the leadership traits you're developing, all of those things, that's the best investment you can make. That's what will take you from a minimum wage job to making $100,000 a year. So your biggest investment opportunity in college is investing in yourself, investing in your education, and developing your skills. Before we go any further, I have to say, I am not a licensed investment advisor, and I do not want to be. I've intentionally chosen a career path with Locker Room Finance and with the financial coaching that I do, where I don't make money directly off of people investing. And so for that reason, I'm not getting those licenses because I know myself, I have an obsessive personality. And if I could make money off of getting people to buy a particular investment, and I might make more or less money depending on what I sell them and insurance products and stuff, I know I would get really wrapped into that. And that's probably all I would do with my life. And then I wouldn't be able to do Locker Room Finance. I wouldn't be able to help all of y'all. And I just think that my purpose on this earth is to be more of an educator and a motivator to inspire people to get control of their money. And I don't really want to be the investment guy. So massive disclaimer, everything that I say today is educational. It's based on the studies I've done. I am in a certified financial planner course right now. It talks about investing. I've done a lot of research and read books about investing. So I know a little bit, but everything today is educational in nature. It's not specific advice for you. Your job at the end of this episode is to take what you learn from this episode and make your own decisions. And that would likely include conversations with people more than just me. That's your parents. That's maybe a financial advisor, depending on your situation. I just have to give that disclaimer. If we haven't met yet, my name is Connor and I own Locker Room Finance. We provide financial education that student athletes actually enjoy so they can win with money. Today we're talking about investing, and I'll read over the outline for you. One, what even is investing and why do we do it? The power of compound interest, saving first, then investing, where and how to invest, some ideas around that, investing versus speculating, some conversation around risk tolerance. We'll talk about crypto, real estate. We'll discuss how investing is a long game. This is not, in my opinion, a get rich quick thing. And lastly, I'm going to ask you a question of, should you be investing right now? And hopefully by the end of this episode, you have a better understanding of if you should, if you shouldn't, and some ways that works. This is not a comprehensive episode on investing at all. This is a basic overview just because a lot of athletes have questions about investing. And so I want to answer the basics today. So starting with, what even is investing? Investing is putting your money into assets with the goal of that asset growing over time. What is an asset? It could be a stock. It could be a business. It could be a house. It could be a rental property. Anything where you are taking your money, putting it in something with the goal of it growing over time, that would be considered investing. Now, when you're investing, there's something called compound interest, which is a wonderful thing. And if you ever heard some old guy say, you got to have money that makes money, or you got to have your money work for you, they're talking about compound interest. So if you're watching the video version of this, this is a visual thing. If not, I'm just moving my hands up and down a little bit to show if you have $100 and you invest that money, that $100, let's say it makes you 10%. So that $100 now made you $10. And now you're not earning 10% on $100 anymore. You're earning 10% on $110. That $10 that your money made for you, that money is now also making you money. And if If you remember back to math in elementary school, there's a difference in a linear line and an exponential line. And saving money, not investing, looks like a linear line. Investing money is an exponential line. It gets exponentially greater because of the power of compound interest. Why do we invest? We invest to build long-term wealth and to create financial freedom for ourselves. And that looks different for everyone, but I always like to bring it back to options. So investing is buying you options and opportunities in your future that you might not have if you didn't invest and build your wealth. So when I am 60 years old, I would like to have the option to work if I want. I would like to have the option to travel the world with my wife. I would like to have more options. If I wasn't investing right now, then when I was 60, I might have no choice, but I have to work. And I'm not saying that you should stop working at 60, but I would like the opportunity to do other things if I would like at that point. And so for me, investing is all about long-term wealth. Another benefit to investing is beating inflation. Inflation, I'm sure you've heard of it. Really simply put, things get more expensive over time. There's some large-scale economic factors that contribute to that, and how much is inflation. But if you have $1 today, 20 years from now, that dollar is going to be worth a lot less than $1, right? Just think back to, think about Raising Cane's. Oh man, I'm in the middle of this not repeating restaurants for a whole year thing. And I went to Cane's in January, and so I can't go back to Cane's for the rest of the year. So I'm thinking about Cane's. But when I started visiting Cane's in college, a sandwich combo was $5. Inflation has kicked in. A sandwich combo, I think, is $10.50, maybe $9 now. So things get more expensive over time, and that is inflation. So just think, if you had $5 10 years ago when I started going to Cane's, that same $5 doesn't buy you a sandwich combo anymore. It buys you maybe a kid's meal if you're lucky. So investing your money allows you to keep up with the pace of inflation and ideally beat inflation, because if money is just sitting there not invested, it's actually losing its purchasing power, its value over time. Another reason we invest is to let your money work for you instead of just you working for a paycheck. There's a breaking point in people's financial life, and I'm not there yet, but at some point in your life, your investments will start making more money than you're making. And so let's say you make $100,000 a year in a job. Well, if you had $1 million invested and it made 10% that year, your investments would make the same amount of money that you made in your job. And ideally, we would all get to a point that our investments are making us a whole lot more money than we ever could by working a job and receiving an income. Point 2, the power of compound interest. Investing is a long game. It's not about getting rich fast, but it is about getting rich for certain. And if you invest with a long-term philosophy and you understand compound interest, it could be a lot of fun for you. An example I always use when I'm giving presentations is $200 a month. If you invest $200 a month from age 25 to age 65, and it compounds at 10% per year, you will have $1 million. $200 a month for 40 years at 10%, you will have more than $1 million. If you're anywhere other than driving, I need you to look at your phone right now and look me in the eyes. If no one's ever told you that you can be a millionaire before, I'm telling you right now, especially if you're in your 20s, early 30s, you can, and I think should, be a millionaire someday. If you can spare $200 a month for investing, which most of us spend $200 a month on a bunch of nonsense we don't really need. If you could put that aside for investments for your future, 99 times out of 100, you will have more than $1 million after 40 years. Now, investment returns are never guaranteed. So the 10% interest rate that I'm using, that's based on the history of what's called the S&P 500, which is the 500 biggest companies in America. And you can invest in all of them at once. And over any 40-year period, it's usually about 10%. So this is rough math. But let's say I'm wrong and you only get $900,000. Oh no, what a bad life you're going to live with $900,000. Let's say I'm also wrong. Maybe it's 1.3 million. Maybe the market does really well over the next 40 years. Compound interest is something that gets better over time. I'm going to include a picture on the video version of this podcast of this same example. So $200 a month for 40 years at 10% will be $1.071 million. And this picture will paint a very nice image of how compound interest works. What I want us to notice is between year 0 and year 1, it's not that exciting. Between year 0 and even year 20, it's not that exciting. So if you did this for literally 20 years, you would only have $138,000. So if you do it for half the time, instead of having over $1 million, you only have $138,000. So if you don't start investing in your 20s and you wait till your 40s, it's not like you're going to have half of the money. You're not going to have $500,000. You're going to have significantly less because of the power of compound interest. Now, in this video version, you can see it gets really exciting towards the end of this. Your first year, from year 0 to year 1, you only make $20 in interest. Fast forward to between year 39 and year 40, you literally make $100,000 in interest. You go from $971,000 to $1,071,000. And that's the power of compound interest. That's the reason why we want to start when we're young. The lesson here, the earlier you start, the less money you actually need to hit your goals. If you want to be a millionaire and you start in your 20s, $200 or $300 a month will more likely than not get you there. If you want to be a millionaire and you start in your 40s, you're going to need thousands of dollars a month to help you get there. But if you start in your 20s and you manage your money right, and you can find a way to get thousands of dollars a month into an investment account, you won't just be a millionaire, you will be a multi-millionaire. And I want that for you. As we're getting excited, I strategically put point 3 as save first, then invest. Before you invest, you need savings. End of story, period. If you have $10,000 invested and $100 in your savings account, you're out of balance there, because investments are risky. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But let's say you have $10,000 in an investment account and you're thinking that's your emergency fund, like we talked about in a previous episode. Well, that $10,000 could be $10,000 today. It could be $8,000 tomorrow. It could be $7,000 tomorrow. An investment account is not a good replacement for savings. So when I say save first, here's your checklist. An emergency fund of probably $5,000 to $10,000. Post-graduation, we want at least 3 months of expenses. So your minimum expenses multiplied by 3, maybe multiplied by 6, depending on your situation. We want that much money in a savings account, ideally a high yield savings account. And then after that, I like paying off debt. There is a conversation to have about the interest rate on your debt versus the interest rate you can reasonably assume you would get investing. And if you're someone that's hearing my voice right now and you understand what I'm talking about, you can have that conversation. You can run the math on that. You can arbitrage the difference. I understand all that. For me, and in my life, I like paying off debt. I like not owing other people money, even if that means I'm missing out on a few percent here and there. I'd rather pay off my debt and then start investing. Right now, my wife and I, the only debt we have is our house. And even that, we're trying to pay it off early. And especially because we bought it at a time where interest rates were really high. Back to our checklist, emergency fund, at least $5,000 as a student athlete, paying off, especially high interest debt. Like if you got a credit card debt, pay that off right now, because that's at 20-something% interest. You're not winning by investing the money instead. Credit card debt, personal loans, payday loans, pay those off. If you have consistent income or a lump sum of cash given to you that you don't need for short-term in the next couple year expenses, that's money that you could invest. We don't want to be investing money that we actually need right now. The lesson here is investing is not a replacement for good savings. We save for things like emergencies, cars, houses. We want to save for those things. We usually don't want that money invested just because of the volatility, the ups and the downs of the risks of investing. Point 4, where and how to invest. Again, this is not financial advice. This is what I've personally done. This is what a lot of people in the personal finance space agree with, and they believe this is a solid approach for building long-term wealth. But again, not specific advice. This is me educating you on common practice in investing. Where do you invest? I like trusting the big reputable platforms like Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity. I mean, all of them have some little pros and cons, but if it's a really big name that you recognize, you're probably safe there. Again, I like the ones that I just listed. And I've actually personally invested money in Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, and Robinhood. So that's just where the investment takes place. Just like you have a bank account, that's just a different account, right? Now, when you open an account there are a few types of accounts you could open. I'll only cover 3 of them today. One of them is a 401k/403b. That would be opened up through an employer someday. So for most of us as student athletes, that's sometime in the future. You'll have an employer that offers a 401k and it'll be hosted through one of those companies. And then you can sign up to invest through their 401k plan. And that's probably in the future for us. The other 2 accounts I want to talk about is a Roth IRA and a taxable brokerage account. 2 words you should know in investing is Roth and traditional. Anything that says traditional, you are not paying taxes on it when you invest. If you have a traditional 401k, then you can put money in there pre-tax, so before you pay taxes on it, and then the money will grow. Now, in traditional, when you go to pull the money out, you will pay taxes at that point. Versus a Roth, it's the exact opposite. A Roth IRA, you use post-tax dollars, which means money that you've already paid taxes on, and then you can invest that. It will grow tax-free, and then you can pull it out tax-free. An example using $1 million, if you have $1 million when you retire in a Roth account, you have $1 million. If you have $1 million in a traditional account, you have $1 million minus whatever the government wants to charge you in taxes at that point, which, you could look up what the rates are now, but they'll probably change over time. So a Roth account, you pay taxes now, you don't have to pay later. A traditional account, you don't pay taxes now, which means you could be putting in more money since you don't have to pay taxes on it, but you will pay taxes in the future. So the Roth IRA, if you have earned income, like a job that you work for that you pay taxes on, then you're eligible to invest in a Roth IRA, which in my opinion is one of the best places you can invest, especially while you're young. Get money in there that you've already paid taxes on, and then the compound interest will grow and grow and grow for the rest of your life, and you'll be able to pull it out tax-free after age 59 and a half. Now, any account that has a tax benefit, like a Roth IRA, traditional 401k, anything where there is any kind of a tax benefit to it, there will be several stipulations and penalties for pulling out early. And so you need to be sure that whatever you're going to invest in, understand all of the rules around taxes and withdrawal penalties. And, like a 401k, you can borrow money from your 401k. I don't recommend doing that ever, but I want you to understand before you put money in it, what all of the fine print is about the account that you're investing in. So we talked about a 401k. We talked about a Roth IRA. Now let's talk about a taxable brokerage account. Depending on several factors, you will pay taxes on the growth of that investment account. You won't pay taxes just for having the investment, but you will pay taxes if you receive interest payments or dividends, or if you sell the investment. But again, in a taxable brokerage account, if you're holding the stock, which just means owning it and not selling it, you're not taxed on just holding the stock, but you are taxed when you sell it or when you receive dividends from that. And all these accounts, this is a lot of information, I understand. Most of this is done electronically, and most of the tax forms will be sent to you automatically from whoever you have your investments through. And if you just have some communication with the place you're investing in, ask a few questions, they will help you out with everything. So a little bit about taxes. Again, if you're selling a stock, you pay what's called capital gains tax. If you're receiving dividends or interest payments, you pay taxes on it that year, similar to paying taxes in a high yield savings account. If you're holding stocks without selling it, you don't have to pay taxes yet. And then again, the tax advantaged accounts, the ones that have some rules around it and you can pull it out when you're 59 and a half. If you have a Roth account, you're paying your taxes now and it's growing tax free. If you have a traditional account, it's growing and you will pay taxes when you pull your money out in the future. When it comes to taxes, please understand the implications of the exact account you're putting money in before you actually invest in it. The worst thing would be to get stuck with a big tax bill that you didn't expect. So where you open the account, Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, the account that you open, a Roth IRA, if you have earned income you pay taxes on, a taxable brokerage account, open for anyone, 401k, 403b, if you have an employer-sponsored program. For most of us, that will be after college. What to invest in? We're going to talk about 2 things, single stocks and then funds. It could be an index fund, a mutual fund, an ETF. I'll use index funds as an example for today. A single stock is a single company. And so when you're investing money, you're giving money to a company, and you're a tiny little owner of that. So you're buying what they call it a share. You're buying a tiny piece of that company. If that company takes your money and makes more money with it, then your piece of the company grows, and now it's worth more. And someday you could sell that piece of that company, and then they would give you money, right? The goal would be you put your money into things that go up over time, so that when you sell your little piece of that company, they give you back more money than you gave them. With an individual stock, it's higher risk than with a fund. An individual stock, let's say Tesla, you could put $100 in Tesla, and Elon and his guys are going to use that money to further develop products and to market themselves. And over time, if they do well and Tesla goes up, your $100 investment might become $150 over a few years, or it might become thousands of dollars over a long enough time. It also might become zero. It might go from 100 to 90, might go from 100 to 80. And that's the risk you run with single stocks. You can do a lot of research, and you can try and pick the correct stocks. You can invest based on companies that you personally believe in. Like if you personally believe in Apple and Tesla and Amazon, and you want to put your money in things that you use and you believe in, that's one option to do it. But that would inherently bring you more risk than an index fund. So an index fund or a mutual fund or an ETF, there's some small differences here. But a fund, think of it like a basket of stocks. The most common basket of stocks is called the S&P 500. And that's a group of 500 companies in America that make the most money. And so if you are one of the top 500, then you're put into the S&P 500. And so you can invest in what's called an index that tracks the S&P 500. So it tracks the 500 biggest companies. And if they're making money, so do you. And if they're losing money, so do you. So let's say a $500 example. You can put $500 in a single stock, and let's pick Target. You put $500 in Target. And now your $500 is totally dependent on how Target does, if they make more money or if their company shrinks and they lose some money. Or you can take that same $500 and put it in the S&P 500. And what you've effectively done is put $1 in 500 different companies. And so that is called diversification. When people say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, this is what they're talking about. $500 in Target, all of your eggs are in the basket of Target. And if they do well, great. If they don't, not great for you, I'm sorry. And that S&P 500 that I mentioned, over time, it averages about 10% per year. And so the examples that I always use in investing are based on 10% per year, because that's what the S&P does. When starting to invest, I always tell people to invest a little and learn a lot. So the fact that you're listening to this episode right now is great. This is part of your learning phase. Again, this isn't all of your learning phase, but this is part of your education on investing. This is probably where you start, and then ideally you would learn more along the way. But I want you to learn a lot, not necessarily invest a lot. Especially if you're still in school as a student athlete, you should be focused mainly on educating yourself around investing. Start small, get comfortable with watching your money go up and down. We all go through that when you start investing. The first 60 days I was investing, I checked my stocks every single day to see, oh, it went up $5, it went down $20. And that's, a growing process for us. It's a good idea to start investing small. So then those emotions are with $5 or $10, not hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. You'll get there someday, but start small and learn a lot. And investing, it doesn't always feel like progress right away, and don't get discouraged. It's fine. The first 2 years that I was investing, the market was going down and down and down, but I kept investing, and I'm glad that I did, because it's returned, and it's returned in a very nice way. And I can reasonably assume that it will be a whole lot more money when I retire someday. Point number 5, investing versus speculation. Investing is what we've been talking about. Smart, lots of research, a history of companies doing well, diversification. Investing is for the long term, for financial security. Now, speculation is chasing a quick win, a get rich quick thing. Higher returns for sure, but with a lot higher risk. Speculation is basically gambling. And so, some people would consider crypto a form of speculation. I don't know if all of crypto would be speculation at this point. I mean, Bitcoin has showed a decent history, but definitely like the meme coins and stuff, that's all speculation. The Haktua coin, that's not investing, right? So if you're going to throw, $5,000 in the latest meme coin, that's not really investing, that's more gambling. And so we would call that, the fancy word is speculation. You're chasing bigger returns with a high risk. And I'm not saying to never do this, but step one, if you can't explain how your investment makes money, you probably don't want to put your money in it. Most people in this world lose money. And a story from my own life, I got approached by a client in California recently, and he had lost $200,000 in the last 6 months in crypto and day trading, which is basically buying single stocks and selling them really quickly. And most people that day trade, most people that try the crypto stuff, most people lose money. And I'm not saying everyone does, but a lot of people do. In the past, we've had a lot of other speculative things. Like there was a Beanie Baby craze in like the 80s or 90s where everyone was buying these little stuffed Beanie Babies because they were told by someone that they were going to be worth a lot of money in the future, and they never were, right? So we want to avoid confusing speculation, which you could think of as gambling, with true long-term investments. There is a place in your life for speculation. I'm not saying never go to a casino. I'm not saying never buy crypto. We just want to do that within the context of understanding the risks of speculative things versus investments and things that have a longer track record of success. Right now, there's some like ball python thing where people are saying you buy a ball python and then it has eggs and you can sell the eggs for more. And maybe it's a pyramid scheme. I don't really know what it is, but all this stuff, it's all about get rich quick. If you're a Bible reading person like me, Proverbs says that wealth gained quickly will dwindle, but whoever gathers it little by little will increase it. I've always held close to that. The stuff that I'm doing with my investments, it's not going to get me rich in the next couple of years. It will get me rich in 40 years, and biblically sound advice to gaining wealth little by little by putting my money in the right things and not just trying to get rich quick. The bottom line is investing is about building wealth steadily over time with calculated, data-driven decisions. Speculation is about taking high-risk bets on uncertain, short-term gains. There's a time and a place for both. This podcast is mostly about investing and not speculation. Point 6, investing is a long game. You have to stay consistent. Once you start investing, I would encourage you to invest every month, no matter what. The fancy word for this is called dollar cost averaging, which just means you put in the same amount of money every single month on a regular schedule, no matter if the market is up or down. I don't try and time the stock market and try and buy. The common thing that you want to do is buy low and sell high. If I can buy something for cheap and then I can sell it for more, that means I make more money. But I personally do what's called dollar cost averaging, which removes emotions from investing, and it prevents me from trying to do that, timing the market, and then missing out. So every single month, I'm putting a certain amount of money into my different investments, and that's called dollar cost averaging. Investing, the kind of investing that I'm talking about is not about quick wins. Just think about it athletically. The best athlete doesn't train for a week and expect to be great. They train for years. Just like the best investors, they don't just invest when it feels right, or they don't just try something for a week and then get upset or frustrated. They invest every single month through the highs and the lows in things that have a track record of success, and they see long-term progress because of that. Investing doesn't have to be complicated. It's only as complicated as you want to make it. Just keep it simple and be consistent. Our last point of the day is a question for you, and that's, should you be investing right now? Ask yourself these 4 questions, and if you answer no to any of these, it might not be time to invest, and that's okay. Here are the questions. Do I have an emergency fund? Yes or no? Have I paid off most of my debt or all of my debt? Yes or no? Can I invest this money without needing it for the next 40 years? Yes or no? And do I understand what I'm actually investing in? Yes or no? Now, if you answered no to any of these, good, sound financial wisdom might tell you that it's not time to invest yet. And that's okay. We want you to save first, educate yourself, and you'll be ready to invest very soon. But we just want to do it within a wise context so we don't end up with investments, but then an emergency happens and we have no money. I really want to stress the importance of saving first, getting your degree, continuing to be a great student athlete. That is priority number 1 right now. I'm not someone that thinks you have to start investing as soon as possible. When you graduate, then it changes to, yes, let's start investing as soon as we can reasonably do that. But while you're in college, the whole investing thing might be too much for a lot of people. Some people listen to the podcast, you might have been investing for years. You might have started when you were a freshman and you understand this stuff really well. And that's really good for you. Even for the person that's been investing, I would say, go through what we just talked about. And if the answer was no to any of these questions, maybe you want to pause your investing and build up an emergency fund. Maybe you want to re-educate yourself on what you're investing in, why you're investing in it, what the risks associated are with it. Maybe you have some credit card debt and you're investing every month, but you haven't paid off your credit card and that is not working out. Like the math doesn't make sense there. So maybe you want to pause your investing and pay off your credit card. I just want to encourage you as a young student athlete, as part of Team LRF, we are people that make smart decisions for our own situation. We are people that don't make decisions based on what other people are doing. If your roommate has $10,000 in Bitcoin and he's always trying to get you to buy it, but the way your life looks, you're trying to just build some savings. You're just trying to stay afloat. You probably don't want to go put a bunch of money in crypto when you don't have any savings. You don't have enough money to make it through a semester. The Bible says it, and I'll say it too. Getting rich quick is not all it's hyped up to be. A lot of professional athletes end up going broke because they get rich quick. And now that's a different thing because you're getting rich from a service you're providing, from a job you're doing. But still, getting rich quick, while it sounds fun, it's a tough thing to do. I haven't done it myself. Most of the speculative things that get people rich quick are not sustainable long term. But it does happen sometimes. I've got a friend of a friend who bought the right NFTs and sold them at the right time, and he made $4 million when he was in college, and now he lives on a beach somewhere driving a Lamborghini. And like, that stuff happens, right? But that same guy, once he made that $4 million, I wouldn't ever recommend for him to go back and try and do the same thing on the next trend. Take that $4 million and now invest it. Don't be speculative with it. And then you'll be set for the rest of your life. Closing thoughts and some action steps for you. Make sure your finances are solid before investing. You've got to have a plan for your money. Go listen to the previous episode on saving and a post-graduation fund. That would definitely come before investing for all of us. When you're ready to invest, start small, be consistent, and reach out to some wise people in your life for help. If your parents invest, I'm sure they would love to help. If you have people in your community that have built some wealth, just don't go listen to just anyone. And I would want you to challenge me as well. Who am I to tell you this? I'm a guy that knew nothing about money when I was 22 years old. And I've learned a lot in the past 5 years. I've started investing, and my wife and I have built what they call the portfolio, our investment accounts. We've built it to a pretty substantial amount by consistently investing. And we're going to keep doing that. And math shows us that we'll have several $1 million when we retire. And that's not a flex. That's just math, right? And that's the discipline that we have. That's my story, going back to a few episodes ago, my story of paying off my student loans really quickly and then saving up money. And we bought a house, but we've both been investing for about 5 years. And because of that, we'll have a bunch of money in the future. And so I want that for you. But when you are educating yourself around investing, be very careful about the voices you listen to. If it sounds like it's a get rich quick thing, you probably want to run the other way, right? I would say the best way to get rich quick is to start a very successful business and sell a bunch of products, start an online business or something. But, when it comes to investing, if someone says, buy this, triple your money in 2 years, it's probably, I don't want to say it's a scam, but it's probably not going to work out for you. And so be very cautious when you go to invest. Invest in things that you understand, invest in things that have a long track record of success, and don't feel pressure to invest just because other people are. Make smart decisions for your life, for your future. People on Team LRF, we are committed to winning with money in a way that makes sense for us. And so for some of you high dollar NIL people, investing might be a thing you want to look into. For some of you like me, some student loan survivors, and you're barely scraping by and you're a walk-on, investing might not be the best use of the little money that we have right now. So make smart decisions for yourself. I'm here if you want to talk about some stuff. If you think you're ready to invest, get linked up with a financial advisor, someone that can more specifically talk to you about exactly what to invest in and the risks associated with that. If you need recommendations for that, let me know. I'd be happy to put you in touch with a few people that I know. But again, at the end of the day, you're the one in charge of this. Okay. Most athletes that end up going broke, part of the story, along with like lifestyle and spending too much money, part of the story is usually they let someone else manage their money and they weren't involved in it. So that's why this podcast is about education, so that you can always be involved in your finances. You can always understand what you're investing in, why you're saving money, what you're spending money on. We're putting you in the driver's seat of your own finances. Thanks for listening. My name is Connor, and this is the Locker Room Finance Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at lockerroomfinance. And if you're a student athlete and I haven't been to your school, there's a link in my bio that you can use to bring me out there as soon as possible. Have a great day.